terrorism from the Islamic perspective, which is a very wide topic and could be discussed in sessions. As a matter of fact, could also be taken as a course in university due to the issues that we as Muslims are going through concern in this regard. And being an international speaker and presenter, I often receive emails and messages on Facebook and all social media platforms asking me certain questions regarding Islam and how much it has to do with terrorism. And I often use an approach with those questioners that will draw a picture into their mind so that they could perhaps grasp the idea that Islam, whether Islam has to do anything with terrorism or not. I wouldn't like to answer the question directly and say, no, Islam has nothing to do with terrorism, because that's so easy. And in most cases, we're speaking to educated people, people who have a lot of knowledge about Islam, terrorism, religions, environments, traditions. So there must be a systematic, dynamic approach that would be very inspiring and heart-touching for the questioner and for anybody who has misconceptions that need to be cleared. First off, if I receive this question from a non-Muslim, I think the majority here are Muslim, maybe one or two non-Muslim. So as Muslims, we already know, what Islam teaches, what the Quran teaches, who the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was, what Allah wants from us. We know this because we were born Muslims and, our parents taught us all these things, we learned in school, and we practiced it. However, the non-Muslim doesn't know. He doesn't know who Allah is in most cases. He doesn't know the characteristics of Allah, and he doesn't know what the exact message Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, came with. And most certainly he doesn't know how much terrorism and Islam are unrelated. So when we give them these details, it becomes very beneficial for them, and they are then able to share it with the world. I mean, I'm actually quite inspired in these past 3 days that I've been here that the Japanese are very much following the morality or the conduct and the methodology and the instructions given to us by the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and in this deen, in this religion. It's like the majority of Japanese are Muslims without them knowing. I mean, all they lack is the understanding that there is one God who deserves worship, and Muhammad is his last messenger. And this actually quite inspired me. And due to that, during the lecture yesterday, some people reverted to Islam, as mentioned by Mr. Fahad. And this is something that we need to raise awareness about, for people to understand what Islam is about. So, you ask me, does Islam have anything to do with terrorism? I say, in order for me to answer your question, you must understand the fundamentals of Islam first. Will you allow me to introduce the fundamentals of Islam to you? Of course, you're here, I'm here, we're all sitting down, I'm speaking, you're listening, so inshallah you will allow me. Now, as Muslims, you see, we all believe in one God. We believe that there is one deity who deserves worship, and none besides him deserves this worship. We believe in his existence. we believe that He is the one who created this universe. He is the one who created us with our 2 eyes, our nose, mouths, our hands. We could touch. Our feet, we could walk. With your eyes you could see. With your nose you could smell. With your mouth you could taste and you could talk. You could also intake oxygen. You could breathe. You live and one day you leave. He is in control of everything. Everything is done with His permission. From Saudi Arabia to Tokyo, 14-hour flight. If He wanted, I could have never arrived. But by His permission, here I am. By His permission, here you are. So we believe in His existence. And when we look at His signs, this increases our faith in Him. You look at the moon, the stars, the planets, the earth. If the moon or the sun, if the sun was just a few meters closer to the earth, this earth would heat up and everybody would die. If the sun was just a few meters away from the earth, this earth would freeze up and everybody would die. He puts everything in perfect order. And when we see these signs, we have no doubt, we are certain that He exists. And thus that leads to believing that He is one and He has no partners. There is one Creator who put everything in perfect order. Only one. And this logically makes sense. Most of you came here with a car today, correct? When you drove your car, you noticed that there is one steering wheel, the car. And if there is one steering wheel, that means there is one driver who's behind the wheel, in control. He wants to turn right, he turns right. He wants to turn left, he turns left. He wants to stop, he stops. He wants to move, he moves. There is no possible way that a car company would create a car with 2 steering wheels for ordinary drivers. No way. If there were 2 steering wheels, that means there would be 2 drivers. If there were 2 drivers, that means that the driver on the left side may want to turn right, while the driver on the left side wants to turn left. As a result, the car is going to collapse. Because he wants to reach a destination, and he wants to reach another destination. He has his opinions, and he has different opinions. And we always hear this saying that there can't be 2 leaders. There is always one. And we as Muslims, we don't believe that we should compare the Creator to humans. But sometimes we have to give certain examples so that images could be drawn in the mind. If there were 2 creators, each creator would have his views, his opinions. And thus, this whole universe would collapse. It wouldn't be in perfect order as is. So we believe that there is one. And these are the fundamentals of Islam. That leads to the book, the system that we follow. We as Muslims, we follow rules and commands. We follow a policy, a divine policy. given to us from the Creator through a prophet to us from the Creator through an angel to a prophet to humans. So, this book is divine. This book is miraculous. This book has zero contradictions. Zero. The language is miraculous. Its linguistic form in which it was revealed in is a miracle of itself. We believe that this book was revealed 1400 years ago. Before it, there was another book revealed 600 years before that. And before that, we believe that there was another book revealed, a divine book, 600 years before that. And each of these books were revealed to different prophets and messengers. If you want me to stand here and speak about the miracles of the Quran, I could spend 24 hours sharing with you 60% or 70% of the miracles. But we have no time. So I'll share with you one. Allah says in the glorious Quran, the Quran is the policy, the book that we follow. He says, يَخْرُجُ مِن بُطُونِهَا شَرَابٌ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانٌ فِيهِ شِفَاءٌ لِلنَّاسِ. From within their stomach comes out a drink of various colors, wherein is healing for people. This was revealed in the book 1438 years ago. Scientists 200 plus years ago discovered that honey comes from the belly of the bee. If you ask a scientist 300 years ago, where does the honey come from? He will say, I don't know. Just 200 years ago, that is when they knew that honey comes from the belly of the bee. And this was mentioned in the Quran 1438 years ago to a man in the desert, a man who has no knowledge of science whatsoever. That's just one miracle. Just one. His tradition, this man who we are going to speak about, his tradition was enormously great, and the way he used to perform as a human to serve humanity was outrageous. He guided us and instructed us to do certain things. And amongst these things that he guided us to do was to, if you're drinking water and a fly comes to the cup of water, the Prophet instructed us to push it in and take it out. Why? Because one of its wings has a poison, whereas the other one has the cure to that poison. So when the fly stands on the tip of your glass, he has his poison wing on top. And once you push him in, he defends himself with the other wing, which has the cure to that poison. As a result, you can drink your water without worrying about the viruses. Scientists recently wanted to see how accurate this is. So they brought 2 containers of water, 2 big containers of water, And one container, they dipped the flies in and they took them out, following the instructions of the Prophet Muhammad. In the other container, they let the flies do as they wish. When you let the fly do as he wishes, he's going to use the poison only. He will not defend himself with the cure. So then, they brought their microscopes and they found that the container in which these flies were dug out had 0 viruses, 0 bacteria, and 0 diseases. Whereas the other container was full of viruses, full of bacteria, and full of diseases. So who was this prophet who gave us these instructions? And what kind of other instructions did he give us? To kind of connect this to the topic, let me share with you some instructions he gave us. He told his companions, do not kill women in war. Do not kill children. And do not kill the elder. If they are your enemies and you see them in war, don't kill them. Leave them. Children, women, and elder people. Why? Because they have weakness. We don't want to fight the weak. As a matter of fact, we don't want to fight anybody. This was his motto, Prophet Muhammad. We don't want to fight anybody. That is why 10 years, while he was in Mecca, during the beginning of his revelation, he did not go to war, not a single time. He could have. He had some power, but he withheld from doing so because he didn't want to fight. He didn't want to go to war. His companions were being tortured. And when I say torture, I mean tortured. So much so that the father, the mother, the son would be standing in broad daylight, in the sun, in the heat of Mecca, almost naked, being whipped, thrown stones at, being stabbed, and asked to do one thing. If you do this one thing, we will leave you alone. Let go of this religion Muhammad is following. Their response was, Ahadun Ahad. One but one. There is only one. None but one. One Creator. The mother stabbed in front of the father, in front of the son, she dies. Let go of your religion and I will let you live. One but one stabbed in front of his father. Let go of your religion and I will let you live. One but one stabbed. The whole family dies. The first 10 years of the Prophet conveying his message to the people was a catastrophe. They went through so many difficult times. They were starved to death, some of the companions. They were beat up, they were tortured, they were murdered. Some of the wives were raped. And all they could say is, Ahadun Ahad, one but one. Did they fight back? No. Did they take out their swords? No. 10 full years. Now, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the first 40 years of his life, he was an ordinary man, just like you and I. He would do business, transactions, and travel from Mecca to Sham to earn some money, to make a living. And he was known for two main characteristics by all the people of Mecca. And there were no Muslims at that time. When the Prophet was 39 years old, there was no Islam. When the Prophet was 38 years old, there was no Islam. When the Prophet was 30 years old, no Islam. Ever since he was born, there is no Islam yet. But the people knew that there is a Prophet who is going to grow up in this area and he will speak the truth. And the Jews left Israel and they came to Mecca and Medina. They came to Medina to witness this Prophet. He lived for 40 years in ordinary life. But he knew that there is one God and he worshipped Him. Once he reached 40 years old, that is when he claimed prophecy. And his claim was the truth. When he received the revelation from Allah through Jibreel, the angel, that is when he conveyed his message to the people. That is when the 10-year mission started with no war and no battles. 10 years later, due to these transgressors' aggressiveness and violence, they had no choice but to leave Mecca and travel to Medina, which is a 4.5-hour distance driving. But there were no cars during those days. So they got on the backs of the horses and they rode to Medina. They reached Medina searching for peace, the Prophet and his followers. But there in Medina the Jews were living. The Jews who left Israel and came to Medina to witness the Prophet. Once the Prophet comes to them, they say he is not a prophet. Why? Because he is an Arab. They had a lot of racism. They want a man who is from the children of Israel to be their prophet. And Prophet Muhammad was an Arab. So they denied the fact that he was a prophet. And they went against him. And they tortured his companions. And here we are. History repeats itself. What happened in Mecca is happening again. So now, the number of the Muslims increased. And they had to fight back. Because if they didn't, they would eventually all be killed. So now they had to fight back. 10 years passed, and Allah gave the command to the Prophet Muhammad, fight back. So when they fought back, they had these instructions from the Prophet. Don't kill children. Don't kill women. And don't kill the elder people. Prophet Muhammad gave these instructions. And as a result, children were not being killed, even though they were the enemies. Because some of these children were trained by their parents and they had weapons. And the women were not being killed, even though they were the enemies, trained by their husbands and they had weapons. And the elder were not being killed, even though they were enemies, trained by their people and they had weapons. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was so lenient and soft, so much so that he used to smile. When people would see him, they see a big smile on his face all the time. His companions would say, I swear to God, there is not a single time except that I saw the Prophet smiling. He had a beautiful smile on his face. His face used to shine from the bright smile. His face was as bright as the moon. To the extent that the enemy would walk in, and the enemy would be very angry and aggressive. And he would say, you, O Muhammad, you and you. And he would call him names. He would be very, very angry. And he would repeat very harsh names to the Prophet. And the Prophet would look at him with a smile on his face. And he would not respond. And this man would feel ashamed at himself. What did I just say? Look at this brilliant man. This man with a sweet heart, smiling at me, and I just called him names. By Allah, this man said, I swear, I walked here today as your clear enemy. I hated you so much, but now I am leaving here today with a lot of love. I love you so much. And he hugged the Prophet and he said, by Allah, there is one God above, and you are the messenger of Allah. And he became a Muslim. This was his approach, the Prophet. Now I ask, is this a man who would teach terrorism? Since we as Muslims, we take the teachings from the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Is this a man who would teach terrorism? One who was patient for 10 years from all of his enemies. They poisoned him. They put poison in his food. They put black spell on him. They did everything they possibly can to beat him down. They came to his uncle and they said, listen, go to your nephew Muhammad and tell him we will give him all the money if he stops. We will give him all the women of this village if he stops. We will give him the crown so he could be the ruler. Just let him stop. So the uncle would come to the Prophet and he would say, my dear nephew, I don't want you to die. I want to hold your back. I want to defend you. This is what they are saying. Will you stop? The Prophet, he looks at his uncle with tears in his eyes, knowing that he's going to suffer a very tough calamity from these enemies. If they came with this approach, this means what's after is going to be hardship. So he looks at his uncle with tears in his eyes, and he says, I swear to Allah, if they gave me the moon in my right hand and the sun in my left hand, I would not stop conveying this message to the people. The moon and the sun, the greatest value. We benefit the most from the moon and the sun. So much so that when you go to the doctor and you say, doctor, I feel a lot of pains in my body, the doctor says, go out, walk in the sun. You need sun exposure, vitamin D. The moon and the sun, if it were both given to me in my hands, I would not stop. I would not stop. And he continued. But he continued with wisdom and leniency. He was very patient, and he was loving and kind. One day he was in the masjid, and his companions came to him. There is a man in the masjid, he is urinating. He is urinating in the masjid, and he touched their swords. Shall we go kill him? Prophet said, wait, hold on, don't you do that. Let him continue. Let him urinate. Why did he say let him continue? Because he fears to interrupt this man's urination, because he's thinking about his bladder. If he interrupts him, this man is going to hold the urine inside, and this is going to affect his health. So wait, don't speak to him, leave him, let him continue. So the man continues, and the Prophet says, come, with a smile. This is a place for worshiping Allah. This is a place where we praise Allah, where we read the Quran, where we pray. This is not a place where we do what was being done. The man looks at the Prophet and he says, "O Allah, have mercy on me and Muhammad, and have mercy on no one else. This is the best teacher." A teacher he was indeed, a merciful teacher. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And we did not send you except as mercy to mankind. Mercy to mankind. This is mentioned in the Quran, the book that we follow. So when we compare all of this, which is only 1% of what needs to be said, to what is being said, when we compare this to what is being said about Islam, and we see the image that the Muslims have been given by the media, which portrays Islam as a violent, ugly religion. I'm half American. My mother is American, Allah yarhamha. And I went to the States last year, 2015, with my beard and with my wife who wears hijab. And we walked, and you see the Americans looking at us, not so pleased, as though they want to say, go back to your country. Do I blame them? No. Why? Because the media has its power. They portrayed Islam as a violent, aggressive religion. And they succeeded because they have the money. So now we have a role. Our role is to be as patient as the Prophet Muhammad, and our role is to show the true teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. We have a role. We have a duty, a responsibility. We should raise awareness, inform the people what Islam is about, who the Prophet Muhammad was, what the Quran truly teaches. And this is how we fight back. We don't have weapons. We don't want weapons. We want to smile, and we want to share this religion, this beautiful religion with the world, so that they could know that Islam is a merciful religion. Now I want to conclude with a little story which reveals how merciful the Almighty Allah is with His servants. And when we know how merciful Allah is with His servants, we will know how merciful the Muslims are instructed to be with all mankind. The reciter who recited today, may Allah bless him with his beautiful voice, the Imam, he mentioned an outrageous verse from the glorious Quran, saying that Allah prescribed upon us that if you kill one person, it is as if you have killed the whole of mankind. And if you save one person's life, it is as if you have saved all of mankind. If you kill one person, it's as if you have killed 8 billion people. And if you save one person, you see one person in the swimming pool drowning, and you dive into the pool and you save him, it's as if you have saved 8 billion people who are alive on this earth. The reward is to that equivalent. Now, with this story. One day, the Prophet Muhammad heard a woman saying, I lost my child. I cannot find my child. So, some of his companions went to search for the child. And after hours and hours of searching, this woman went through a devastating time, because we know how valuable our children are to us. And if we lose our child, our children, for just 1 hour, we may lose ourselves. When our child just has fever for 1 day, we cannot think straight. So how is it when our children are lost? So she's looking. So they take the child to the mother. And the first thing she does is she holds him really tight. She hugs him. And as she's hugging her child, the Prophet and the companions are watching. And the Prophet says, do you see this woman hugging her child? They say, yes, we do see that. He said, would you imagine, or would you ever think that this woman would throw her child in the fire? They said, no way, O Messenger of Allah, it is impossible. He said, Allah is more merciful with His servants than that woman is with her child. Allah is more merciful with His servants, not with the Muslims, with His servants, than that woman is with her child. Now I ask you, without giving you the answer, Does Islam promote terrorism? After hearing some of these facts, after hearing some of these stories, after hearing some of these miracles from the Quran delivered to us through the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, does Islam promote terrorism? Think about it. Do your research, and you come with the answer. Thank you, all of you, for attending, for watching, for listening. May Allah bless you all, and I ask Allah to have mercy upon all of us and to increase us in knowledge and wisdom. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum.
Please have a seat. The speech by itself is complete, and alhamdulillah, we understand that Islam is a religion of peace and never allows terrorism, corruption, and violence. But maybe, I know that all of you understand this point very well, but we want to get the benefit of the wisdom and experience of our scholar. So might be there are some questions from you. Yes, I know. I have noted your name. So you have some questions. These are questions which you will make are only to clarify maybe certain points you want to get clarification so that you can explain to the non-Muslims and other people who are misunderstanding about Islam, that from that angle you may ask some questions, and I hope that scholar, our brother, Rayyan Arab will explain to you. Please. Yes, sir. Yes, your hand. You raise your hand, please. Yes, stand up. You can come here if you like, because the mic.
I think it's fine.
All right.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
So, thank you for coming and giving us this very interesting talk. I appreciate that. So I'm just, we are a couple of guys
From what? Makoshi, in Japan. Okay.
We are all scientists. I was just wondering if you, so from my understanding, you are blaming the media, right, for portraying the negative image of Islam. And that's correct. But I think what part of the responsibility part of the Muslim per se, themselves. Are we doing enough to convey the real news? Right? Because it's affecting our daily life, right? We work with non-Muslims, interact with almost on a daily basis, and we like travel a lot of places, France, Australia, and now Japan. And I don't believe that apart from these seminars, there's like a lot of things. So this is very, very important, especially for non-Muslims. I would encourage this sort of things to promote the great image of all the people. This is what Islam is about. So, but what I also would like to know, because you are a scholar, are the scholars doing enough to interact with the Western media and promote the peace of Islam? So I had one colleague, very briefly. He's a doctor, and he told me, I can't see enough speech from Muslim scholars that whenever there is this terrorism, and God knows the number of terrorist attacks